Probend toroids. They're obscure, counterintuitive, look strange as can be, and I absolutely love them. Drex here from Drex Factor Poi, sharing with you the love of poi spinning and flow arts to benefit your body and brain, and today I'm talking about the most obscure of the obscure. Okay, so housekeeping first. What exactly is a toroid, much less a Probend toroid? Toroids are a class of poi tricks that are performed by bending the poi plane on axis towards the audience, presenting the poi as a series of straight lines rather than curves. When performing toroids, we generally imagine that the plane of the poi is in itself a prop that we are spinning relative to the direction that the hand is moving in. If the poi plane spins in the opposite direction that the hand does, we refer to the toroid as an anti-bend toroid. If the poi plane spins in the same direction that the hand does and completes the same number of beats, we refer to it as an isobend toroid. And if the poi plane spins in the same direction as the hand and completes more beats than the hand does, we would call this a probend toroid. And it's this final case that we're going to explore in this video because some really wild things start to happen with probend toroids. And if all of this still sounds kind of confusing, I recently did a video demystifying the terminology around toroids and explaining how they relate to normal poi flowers that I'll go ahead and link to down in the description, as well as up in the cards if you're watching on YouTube. Okay, so let's talk for a second about what makes probend toroids unique. Unlike anti-bend and isobend toroids, probend toroids do not always result in the poi facing the audience edge on. This also means that they are the toroid that most closely resembles the classical poi flower that they are analogous to, in this case, in-spin flowers. But why is this? Well, let's try to visualize it for a moment. As with all toroids, the theory behind probend toroids is that we take the poi plane and point it edge on towards the audience, creating a straight line. This we can then imagine as being analogous to another prop like a staff. And when spinning a staff, in-spin flowers have a unique quality that both isolations and anti-spin flowers do not. When one performs anti-spin flowers with a staff, the resulting pattern is filled with straight lines. Likewise, when performing isolations, we see a series of moments when the staff presents a profile as a straight line. But in in-spin flowers, for the first time, we are seeing the staff produce real curves, and a lot of them. And yes, I know that there's also curves in a staff isolation, but when we apply that metaphor to toroids, the curves disappear because of the way the poi plane bends. But in in-spin flowers, and by extension probend toroids, the curves don't disappear. They are the only type of toroids where we are guaranteed to see these curves. So let's talk about how to perform a basic probend toroid. As with most of our toroids, we're going to start by spinning our poi forward in buzzsaw plane with our hand near our waist. We're looking for a moment when the poi head is dropping down out in front of us, and we're going to pull our hand out to the right side and let the poi head drop into spinning counterclockwise in wall plane. Unlike our isobend or anti-bend toroids, this bend doesn't happen when the poi is furthest to the inside or outside of our imaginary donut, but halfway between the two. It's almost like performing a 2-beat or tic-tac pointed diagonally off to the left. The next step is for us to take the poi into a horizontal plane. As the poi is spinning in wall plane, we're going to watch out for the moment when it reaches the top of its path and is about to spin inward toward our body center. When it reaches this point, we're going to pull our hand slightly back towards ourselves at roughly shoulder level, out to the right, and switch the poi into a horizontal plane, spinning counterclockwise if we were to look down on it from above. We'll want to keep the poi plane just above our hand, so make sure to have some give in your elbow and let the poi hang just slightly below the hand in order to keep the plane stable as it spins in the new plane. It takes less energy than you think it does. Next up, we're going to take the poi back into wall plane. This one's going to feel a little funky. As the poi is spinning counterclockwise horizontally, watch out for the moment when the poi spins closest to your body. When the poi passes through this point, you'll want to push your hand upward a little towards your center and bend the poi into a vertical plane between your arm and your body, spinning counterclockwise relative to you. This plane orientation is pretty bizarre. It's an inside plane like we would use for an inversion or introverted weave, and it means keeping the poi spinning in a stable plane pointed back at ourselves. I recommend keeping your poi short for this to avoid collisions with your arm or other parts of your body. Alright, now let's take things back to a buzzsaw plane, but close to our head now instead of down below. As we spin the poi counterclockwise in this inside plane, we're going to keep an eye out for the point when the poi begins spinning straight down. This should be close to, if not directly on, our center line. As the poi passes through this point, we're going to move our hand slightly forward into the center and towards our head to switch the poi into a buzzsaw plane spinning reverse at our eye level. This is going to feel a little weird since effectively we're bending the poi when it's coming back at us to come even more back at us, but gets us into the vertical position we need to be in to complete the first half of this pattern. Cool, so that's the first half of the pattern. Now let's learn how to take it back down on the other side. From that reverse buzzsaw up near your head, watch out for the point when the poi starts spinning upward towards the ceiling or sky. The next time the poi passes through that point, move your hand slightly over to the left side and bend the plane over into wall plane, spinning counterclockwise. Yeah, notice a pattern here yet? All the segments that turn the plane in profile to the audience will be counterclockwise. That's because that's also the direction our hand is moving in. And now it's back to the horizontal plane. As we spin the poi counterclockwise up high and slightly over to our left, we're next going to look out for the point when the poi passes through the bottom of its path. Next time the poi passes through here, go ahead and move your hand straight out to the left at shoulder height and pull the poi into spinning horizontal plane, spinning clockwise if you're looking down on it from above. Here we're going to want to wind up with the hand above the poi plane and the poi spinning as it hangs below the hand. We're getting close to done, only 2 more segments to go. As our poi spins clockwise in horizontal plane, we're going to look for the moment when the poi is spinning nearest to us and mark it. The next time the poi passes through this point, we're going to bring our hand down and slightly towards the center to pull the poi into spinning clockwise in a vertical plane. And yes, we're back into that odd inside plane here, so be aware that the poi will wind up spinning between your arm and your body. Remember, keep your poi short. Alright, final bend. You ready for it? From that weird inside plane, we're going to now watch out for that spot where the poi begins to spin upwards. This should happen right along your center line. The next time the poi passes through here, bring your hand down close to your waist along your center line and shift the poi back into a forward buzzsaw. Our hand is going to wind up just to the right of the poi plane, but still pretty close to our center line. Great job, you made it all the way around. Awesome, so now that we know all the component bends that go into Probend toroids, we want to work at performing fewer and fewer beats in each spot. Start by performing 3 beats in that forward buzzsaw spot. Bend the plane around to wall plane counterclockwise and hold there for 3 beats. Then bend into horizontal plane off to your right, spinning counterclockwise when seen from above, and hold for 3 beats. Then bend to that weird inside plane counterclockwise for 3 beats and switch to the reverse buzzsaw on top for 3 beats. Now bend into wall plane counterclockwise for 3 beats and then into that clockwise horizontal plane off to the left for 3 beats. Switch back into the inside plane counterclockwise for 3 beats, and finally, back into that buzzsaw on bottom. Cool! When that feels comfortable, switch to doing 2 beats buzzsaw on bottom, 2 beats wall plane counterclockwise, 2 beats horizontal plane counterclockwise, 2 beats counterclockwise inside plane, 2 beats reverse buzzsaw on top, 2 beats counterclockwise wall plane, 2 beats horizontal clockwise, 2 beats inside plane counterclockwise, and return to buzzsaw on bottom. And when that gets to feel comfortable, stop in each location to spin the poi only once. At this point, you're performing the Probend toroid. Now, real quick, the way that I'm teaching this has also been known to lead to a bit of misconception about how this toroid is structured that I do want to just take one moment to clear up. Based on how I'm teaching you this, you might think that the structure of the toroid looks something like this, with planes essentially hinging back and forth between wall, buzzsaw, and horizontal planes. And make no mistake, the way I teach this does tend to point to this conclusion. But the truth of the matter is that all the points where we pass through wall plane or that inside plane, well, they're kind of an illusion. See, what's actually happening here is that the plane is spinning through these in-between positions, and it just so happens to be that as the poi spins through those points, it looks a lot like spinning in wall plane, even though it's really not. See, See, if I were to teach it the way that I've taught the other toroid tutorials I've done, the exercise of working down to a single beat in each spot should actually look more like this. Instead, the more accurate way to visualize it is that you spin the poi, say 3 beats in that bottom buzzsaw position, and then swing the poi out and around to land in the counterclockwise horizontal plane and hang out there for 3 beats. Swing the poi out and around to wind up in the reverse buzzsaw up top for 3 beats. Swing the poi out and around to wind up in the clockwise horizontal plane for 3 beats, and finally swing the poi out and around to return to the bottom buzzsaw plane. From here, we do 2 beats at the bottom, swing around to counterclockwise horizontal for 2, swing around to reverse buzzsaw up top for 2, swing around to clockwise horizontal for 2, and return to forward buzzsaw on bottom. And finally, go from bottom to horizontal to top to horizontal, and back to bottom again to complete the pattern. So then, why don't I teach it this way to begin with? Why do I teach it in a way that's more likely to lead to those misconceptions? Well, in all honesty, it's because I think that just teaching each of these bends is hard enough as is. I'd rather somebody get down all of the pieces than harp on them for visualizing it improperly. And now that we've got the full trick in our heads, there are actually some really cool patterns that we can pull out of it. For example, just like in anti-bend, the direction of the poi seems to change at each of the 4 major compass points of this trick. I've described iso-bend as having innie and outie variations, whereas anti-bend switches between innie and outie in each segment. Likewise, probends also switch from outies to innies. The way I've outlined the method for this probend, it's an outie on the top and bottom and an innie on either side. And if we look at the trick from the side, there's also a pattern to the transits where we pass through wall and inside planes in between each of those 4 compass points. We alternate between wall, inside, as we go around. Pretty cool, huh? You can imagine that both because they're probably the most difficult toroid to conceptualize as well as the one that requires the most steps to learn, Probend toroids are definitely the rarest of all the toroids. I've only seen maybe a couple demos of them, my own included. But you know what? Let's change that state of affairs. Now that I've put this information out there, I want to see more Probend toroids out in the world. Show me yours when you learn this one. Post video of yourself doing it to YouTube or Instagram and make sure to tag me. I would love to see your hard work. And as with all things poi related, learn this trick going both directions and with both hands, and yes, learn how to put the 2 hands together to perform it in together same, together opposite, split time same direction, and split time opposites. All the greatest hits. Did you get anything out of this video? Please leave me a like, comment, share, and subscribe to help other people find it and to help my channel grow. It takes a lot of support to make a video and a channel like this one possible, so I would love to single out some folks who've stepped up to make that happen. First up, the friends of the channel: Dark Monk, Fire Mecha, Flowfests, Flow Toys, Juggling Calling, Pyro Light Toys, Spinballs, and Ultrapoi. To learn more about what all these awesome companies are doing to support flow artists like yourself, check out the links that I have down in the description. And a special shout out to the non-business friend of the channel, that is Pekha Pekkonen. Thank you so much for your support. I also want to shout out my wonderful Flow patrons for supporting this video and the channel. Without their support, none of this would be possible. I have a Patreon, so if you'd like to sign up to support my work, please go check it out over at patreon.com/DrexFactorPoi. And if you dug this video and would like to see more of my videos on toroids, I'm going to leave a link to a playlist of said videos down in the description as well as up here on screen for you to check out. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to get out and flow today, and I'll see you with a new video real soon. Peace.